Well, hi, everybody. So I'm here with people from the LUV BIPOC working group. LUV stands for Listening to Unheard Voices, and BIPOC stands for Beautiful, Inspiring People of Color. And we have an event coming up called What's Race Got to Do with It? Why Talk About Race When We Are All Spiritual Beings? April the 5th. Registration can be found at our website, which is lovebipoc.com. And so I wanted to ask these folks, these wonderful women, why they think it's important that people should come to this webinar. And we'll start with Janet. Actually, the idea of listening to people of color, unheard voices, is actually getting rolled back at this time. And so people seem to think it's not important, but why would you say it would be important?
It's important, I believe, in reflecting and thinking about the event that we have coming up. It's also allowed me to reflect on the journey that we've taken in creating this website, this event, this group, in recognizing that if you're not seeing and acknowledging my ethnicity, how I look, then you are ignoring part of me. In as much as, even though we're spiritual beings, we're spiritual and human and flesh at the same time. So to not speak about race, to not acknowledge that, to not see the extension of mind in the physical, then you're ignoring part of mind. You're ignoring that part. You're ignoring the thought-created reality that there is, and then bypassing the feelings that people of color have. And so it's important to have the conversation, to acknowledge, to sit with the feelings that emerge from such a conversation and not to run from it, not to bypass it.
Danielle, how about you?
I agree a lot of what Janet said. We're all spiritual beings, like she said, but we also live out this existence as human. And even though we're all human and we're all 99.9% the same in one, we're living out this existence as human in the form that we have. And that's different races, different cultures. We're all having to live on this planet as humans. And that's going to be a different experience for each human. And as human beings, we need to acknowledge that and respect that, because it's going to be different for each human being here. I think that it is a conversation that is often neglected. I think that it can make people feel uncomfortable sometimes, but if we learn to allow it and accept it, it doesn't have to be. There's beauty in our differences. We each have something to give, being that we all look different in form. We may be all one in spirit, but we all do look different in form. It's a beautiful thing. Instead of separating us, it can bring us together. And if we're not able to see that as being something good in one another, then we're already failing as humans.
A lot of people would say, well, I don't see color already, which probably isn't true, because if you have eyes to see, you probably see color. Like, people will say, it doesn't, like, I already don't see color. I'm not racist. I don't want to be racist. So when people say that, I mean, I know we're going to talk about this more extensively in the webinar. And what I love about our group is how much compassion we have for people who may not be a person of color, or they may be, but they present as white most of the time. And so that's how they experience the world. How much compassion this group has had for helping people understand and not being angry or judgmental about people not understanding. So Janet, when people say, and you mentioned this, I don't see race, like, I'm not racist, why would you say it might still be important for them to come?
It's interesting when you said that. Normally it's somebody who you can only see that if you do see race. Does that make sense? If it wasn't an issue, you wouldn't even mention it. And so that's normally like a defense position. It's like, oh, no, I'm not racist. No, I don't see race. But it's just like, well, then you don't see me. And so it's about being comfortable in your uncomfortableness and having the conversation. It's about experiencing the feelings and acknowledging the feelings that you're having, as opposed to bypassing and being on the defensive. So, yes, anybody who says they don't see race, clearly they do. That's why they're saying it.
Yeah. And it occurs to me what a lot of people say is, why do we have to keep talking about it? Why do you keep bringing it up? Why is it important? Let's just all get along and just, we're all equal now, quote unquote, right? And I'll just share what I see, which is that actually, you know, people in our political leadership, at least in the United States, have made it an issue. And they've made, you know, like they've made being a trans person an issue. They've made being LGBTQ plus an issue, at least here in the States. So it's interesting to me that people say, well, you're making it an issue, when actually it's like, actually, no, we're feeling a lot of like hatred coming our way, you know, and one of my goals is to help educate people who could be supportive and understand, you know, what's happening better. And I've had to go through my own learning process with when we had the killing of George Floyd and all the protests that happened around the world. Like, I learned a lot. I read books, I watched movies, I learned a lot, and I was shocked at how much I didn't understand and know. And that it made me someone who was more willing to step forward, you know, for all people of color. And I learned about Asians too, you know, and I didn't realize some things that had happened in the United States. I had no idea. And I was like, wait a second. But spiritual people would say, well, then what's the point of thinking about the past and getting angry, right? And so, but part of me is like, no, because if you don't look at the past, then you don't understand how the present is connected to the past and what we are facing that actually is connected to the past as people of color and Black and Indigenous peoples. And I want to just mention that this group came out of, you know, someone from 3PGC and someone who's part of the conference in London, getting together people of color over years to talk and listen to them in large groups and small groups. And that's where this group originates from. So any last comments or thoughts?
I thought about what you just said, and thank you, Emmy. It was beautiful when you were talking about why do we have to keep bringing it up. And it brings me back once to a conversation I was in, and a person who wasn't a person of color had said, I just don't understand why people of color have to lead with that so much. Mm-hmm. And I remember saying to her, I don't want to. I don't want to lead with it all the time. When I walk into a room, I want you to see me. I want to be me, you know, and that's where spirituality comes into play. I want to be this soul. I don't want you to see my color as the only thing that identifies me. But being here on this planet, living the existence that I live, a lot of times that's what happens because people are socially conditioned to do that in the world, right? They're Black, they're white, they're other, they're this, they're that. So I'm glad that you touched on that. But a lot of people of color, no, they don't want to lead with that all the time. They just want to lead with them, who they are. So I'm glad that you touched on that. Thank you.
And I just wanted to echo what Amy said, that the love and compassion that we have for all people, you know, the fact, the reason why we're putting this event on is so that we can share, so that people can become more aware, so that we can spread that love, so that more love can be spread and experienced.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much. And I hope that people who are thinking of coming understand that there may be moments of discomfort, there may be some emotions, but we're going to try to wrap it all up in love and understanding. We are open to stupid questions that you think might be stupid, because if we don't get to those questions, we're not going to gain understanding and progress. So that's what this webinar is about. We hope you sign up at the LUV BIPOC site. It's LUVBIPOC.com. And we're sharing our Eventbrite page around as well. Thank you so much for joining us on this video, and we hope to see you on April 5th.